The call came on a rainy Thursday morning, the kind of gray that made you forget which season you were in. I was rinsing a coffee mug when the phone vibrated against the counter, face down. Unknown number. I almost let it go. But something tugged at me. Ardell? It's Celeste. My hand froze. Her voice was sweet, too sweet, lacquered with cheer that didn't match the years of silence between us. We've missed you. So much. It's time, you know? Time to start fresh. I leaned against the sink, letting the cold porcelain steady me. Celeste never called unless it served her. Her sudden warmth wrapped around the words like ribbon around a blade. We want to invite you to Miami. Just a sisters' weekend. You and me. All expenses covered. Oh, and we'll take care of that college debt you've been dragging. It's time you got to breathe again. I didn't answer right away. The debt was real. So was the ache. But her voice, it was like hearing a familiar lullaby in a stranger's mouth. Come on, Deli. It's been too long. Let us fix this. I said I'd think about it, hung up, and stared out the window. Have you ever had someone from your past offer you the perfect gift, only to realize it might be a cage? 3 days later, I found myself standing on the curved brick steps of the Ward family estate. The house hadn't changed. White stone, manicured hedges, and that air of forced elegance that made it feel like a museum instead of a home. Celeste greeted me with arms open and perfume heavy enough to sting. Sister, she beamed, home at last. That night, they hosted a family dinner in my honor. I wasn't on the original guest list, that much was clear from the way Marin raised her eyebrows and Thomas offered a stiff, accidental hug. Jasper, the family patriarch, wore his usual Scotch-and silence face. The meal was formal, too formal. Crystal clinking, forced smiles, and a slideshow looping across the living room screen. Baby pictures. Graduations. Weddings. Then it happened. A slide flickered on, in memory of Ardell Wynn, lost to the world, not to our hearts. Laughter died. My fork stopped midair. Oh, that! Celeste chirped. A joke! The intern must have left it in by accident. Isn't that morbid? But funny. I smiled, small and sharp. Jasper cleared his throat but said nothing. Thomas blinked at his plate. Marin adjusted her napkin. Celeste raised her glass. To rebirth. To family. To the ones we thought we lost. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. That night, I began to notice. A prescription bottle missing from my travel bag. The study locked, though it never had been before. Celeste, whispering on the patio under the orange glow of garden lights. I searched quietly. Old habits die hard when you've been both teacher and detective in your own life. In a drawer near the office, I found a yellow legal pad with words scrawled in rushed ink. Conservatorship. Incompetence hearing. Sign before June. Later, my phone buzzed. Bank notification. $8,200 withdrawn from a joint student account Jasper had once co-signed years ago. I hadn't touched it in nearly a decade. I didn't confront anyone. Not yet. I pulled out a notebook, began listing times, places, conversations. If they were building a case, so was I. The next morning, I skipped the dining room. Instead, I slipped into the pantry. I just needed space. That's when I heard Celeste. She has to sign willingly, she said. Just get her to Miami. Once she's there, we file with the state. A pause. Then another voice crackled through, maybe Marin's, maybe someone else's. I told you, if she gets suspicious. She won't. She wants closure. Let her think that's what this is. I stood frozen, heart thudding so loud I was sure it gave me away. That night, Celeste knocked gently on my door. Just one little form, she said. A therapy waiver. For the retreat. Sign it, and we'll wipe your debt. You'll come back new. I smiled. I'd like to read it alone. Her smile returned, brittle as spun glass. Of course. But don't take too long. Offers like this don't last forever. Have you ever been asked to sign something by someone who once deleted you from their life? I read the form under the yellow glow of a lamp, page by page. What she called a waiver was something far darker: voluntary admittance to a facility, medical release, emergency power of attorney, all cleverly buried in legal jargon. I folded the document neatly and slipped it back in the envelope. In the mirror, my face was pale but firm. You're not their pawn anymore, I whispered. I walked to the door, bent down, and slid the envelope under it. Then I began to pack, but not for Miami. The gate agent scanned my boarding pass with a robotic smile. Miami, it said on the screen. I stepped onto the jet bridge, my body moving on autopilot, my mind caught somewhere between dread and calculation. I carried nothing but a small satchel and the envelope I hadn't signed. I'd left the real one, Celeste's bait, folded and untouched in a drawer back at the estate. Jasper was already seated in 3B, middle seat. He rose as I approached, gesturing toward the aisle. Took you long enough, he said, tone flat, bottle of water already in hand. Hydrate. He handed it over. Sealed, brand new, but the way he held it, like it mattered too much, made my fingers sweat. Across the aisle, a young flight attendant paused his cart, watching the exchange. Sharp eyes, warm skin, badge, Grange, E. I buckled in, bottle unopened, eyes fixed ahead. But I could feel it. The way Jasper shifted, subtle but urgent. He gave a nod, barely there, toward Grange. I didn't know what that nod meant. But my instincts screamed, not here. Not with him. What's the worst place to discover you can't trust the person sitting next to you? Maybe it's somewhere above the clouds, where escape means jumping. We were barely 20 minutes into flight when the attendant reappeared, leaning down with a smile that felt rehearsed but not unkind. Ma'am, would you mind stepping into the galley for a quick seatbelt check? I raised a brow. A what? His eyes flicked sideways, toward Jasper, then back to me. Just need to verify something, he said. Voice low now. Urgent. Come. I followed. As soon as the curtain closed behind us, his whole demeanor changed. I've seen this before, he whispered. Last year, girl about your age, family took her to Miami. Same tone. Same look. She was drugged. Committed before dinner. My mouth dried. What? Don't drink anything. Don't sign anything. If you want out, say you're sick. Say it now. I'll handle the rest. My breath caught. This wasn't a suggestion. It was a lifeline. I nodded, stumbled back to my seat, the plane's hum suddenly deafening. Jasper glanced up from his tablet, eyes narrowing. Everything all right? Just turbulence, I said. Needed a moment. I leaned back and tried to calm the shaking in my hands. Inside the cramped lavatory, I emptied my bag. There it was. A thick envelope I didn't remember packing. Cream-colored. Labeled in bold, confidential, emergency action authorization. I opened it. The first page stopped my heart cold. Medical certification of incompetency. Signed. Stamped. Effective tomorrow. Not tomorrow, landing day. They were planning to have me declared unstable the moment we touched down. I flipped through emergency power of attorney granted to Celeste. Consent for hospitalization. A psychiatric evaluation scheduled. My fingerprints all over the envelope. They planned this. Down to the signature. I snapped a photo. Then another. Shoved everything back, flushed the toilet, splashed water on my face. I couldn't feel my feet. But I knew what I had to do. I sat down slowly, breathing through my nose. Jasper glanced at me, impatient. You sure you're okay? I nodded, and then I began to tremble. Just enough to draw attention. My chest rose and fell like I couldn't breathe. I clutched my stomach, let out a small, choked sound. Elliot appeared like he'd been waiting for it. Ma'am, you don't look well. Feeling faint? I didn't speak. Just leaned to the side, letting my body go limp enough to sell it. Jasper's hand moved toward my purse, but Elliot was faster. I'm calling it, he said, into a small radio clipped to his vest. Jasper bristled. She does this, he said. It's psychological. She has episodes, don't listen to her. But he was rattled. I saw it in the way his hand curled into a fist. I'll speak for myself, I croaked, voice shaky. Just get me off this plane. The captain's voice followed minutes later. We've got a passenger in distress. We're making an emergency landing in Charleston. The descent began. Jasper didn't speak another word. They wheeled me down the aisle on a stretcher, oxygen mask half on, though I didn't need it. I clutched my bag like it held my life. Because it did. Celeste was waiting near the terminal. Smooth. Calm. A scarf looped perfectly around her neck. She has a history, she told the EMTs. Delusional. It's hereditary, actually. I didn't fight her words. I didn't have to. Elliot handed a sealed envelope to the officer standing nearby. This is my report. I recommend outside evaluation before any medical transfer. The officer nodded, flipping open a small notepad. His badge read, Darnell Quaid. Let's not jump to conclusions, he said to Celeste. We'll follow protocol. Celeste smiled, the edges too tight. Of course, officer. As the gurney rolled toward a waiting SUV, Celeste stepped beside me. We'll take you to a quiet clinic. Rest is all you need. I looked at her, then over her shoulder, Officer Quaid approached, keys in hand. Actually, he said, I can give her a lift. Standard procedure, given the call originated on board. Celeste's smile faltered. That won't be necessary. I'd prefer it, I said. My voice was low, but clear. I met her eyes. Her expression didn't change, but her pupils dilated. Her lip twitched. Jasper stood several feet behind, hands tucked in his coat. He said nothing. I climbed into the cruiser, letting the door shut with a satisfying finality. For the first time since that phone call, I wasn't pretending anymore. I wasn't safe. But I wasn't playing by their script. The hotel Officer Quaid dropped me at wasn't 5-star, but it was quiet. 2 blocks from the airport, the kind of place with thin curtains and thicker silences. I triple-locked the door, set my bag on the dresser, and sat on the edge of the bed, coat still on, boots still wet from the tarmac. Sleep didn't come. I kept seeing the pre-signed incompetency certificate. The seal. The date. The way Jasper's hand had hovered over my purse, inches from erasing me. I began to reconstruct everything. From the moment Celeste called, to the family dinner, the memory slideshow, the flight. Elliot's voice haunted me, "Pretend you're sick." He'd risked his job for that warning. Why? Because he'd seen this movie before. I opened my notebook. Page 1, names, timestamps, words exactly as spoken. Each detail, logged. I was no longer reacting, I was recording. At 2:14 a.m., I checked my phone. A shared location app was still installed, one I hadn't opened in years. My marker had been active the whole time. They hadn't just watched me, they'd tracked me. Have you ever realized someone was still watching you, even when you thought you were free? By 9 a.m., I made contact with Raylan Brooks, my old law school roommate. She'd interned at Celeste's firm once. Trusted, at least then. I didn't know what she was now. She answered after 3 rings. Ardell? Don't use my name. Can you meet? Not at your place. Not at mine. Her pause wasn't long. Diner on 14th. The booth near the back. She arrived first. Tan blazer, no makeup, hair tied back, Raylan always dressed like she was under oath. Her eyes scanned the room before she spoke. "They're building something," she said, sliding her coffee aside. "I've seen sealed files come through. You were listed in 2 of them, mental health authorization, conservatorship framework." I kept my face neutral. "You're not surprised." "I interned for Celeste," she said flatly. "I know how she operates." Then she leaned in. "Last year, I saw a document with your signature on it. You never signed it." "I know, because I watched Celeste sign it herself." My heart didn't race. It dropped. Like a weight that settled into place. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small USB. "Then help me make it public." Raylan stared at it. "This could ruin her." "Good," I said. "Because she tried to erase me." 3 hours later, we were in Raylan's apartment, laptop open, cloud access logged in under her old firm credentials. The files weren't hidden, they were just named with enough plausible vagueness to pass casual audit. But one folder stood out. Transition Packet, A-Win. Inside, a stack of PDFs. Some were billing logs. Some were timelines. One was a psychiatric assessment. My psychiatric assessment. Dr. Yvette Sloan, signature at the bottom. Stamped. Dated. The words emotionally unstable and financially compromised were repeated 5 times. "They wrote your diagnosis before you saw a doctor," Raylan whispered. "And listed Jasper as financial guardian." Her voice broke. "They weren't just cutting you out. They were going to legalize it." I closed the file. Took a long breath. "Then I'll make them choke on their paperwork." That night, under borrowed credentials and a fake work badge, I returned to the Wynn estate. The cleaning contractor story held. Raylan had scheduled me under a new agency name. I wore gloves, glasses, hair tied tight. The house looked the same, perfect angles, curated silence. But now I saw it differently. Not as home. As a crime scene. I planted the first recorder under the edge of the study desk, where Jasper handled the accounts. The second went inside Celeste's dressing table, between her perfume bottles and a tin of mints she never touched. Bernice, the housekeeper, passed me in the hall. Her eyes met mine, recognition flickered. But she said nothing. Just nodded. And kept walking. I ducked behind the linen cart as footsteps neared. Jasper entered, alone. Phone to ear. "She's off the plane," he said. "The doc signs tomorrow. I'll take the purse from her room tonight, we'll scan what she took photos of." I held my breath. Every word, caught on tape. He walked out. I slipped away seconds later. The next text from Raylan came at midnight. Just one line, "We need to talk, alone." We met in the alley behind her building, under the flickering porch light. She looked rattled. Not scared, but not steady either. "Celeste offered me a job," she said. "6 figures. If I stop helping you." I waited. Raylan didn't blink. She reached into her coat and handed me a small black key card. "Storage unit. Registered to a firm affiliate. You'll find more than you expect." "You sure about this?" I asked. She nodded once. "You decide who I am now." I pocketed the key. Then we both just decided. Back in the motel, I labeled the keycard with a strip of masking tape, Phase 2, exposure. It slid into the front page of my notebook. My fingers trembled only once. As I reached to turn off the lamp, my phone buzzed. No name. No number. Just a message. "You shouldn't have come back." I stared at it. Then deleted it. They could warn me. They could track me. But they couldn't stop what was coming. The envelope arrived by courier at dawn. Heavy paper, embossed seal, and my name typed in bold above a Miami County Court emblem. I already knew what it was before I slid it open. Petition for medical conservatorship. Petitioners, Celeste Ward and Jasper Wynn. Grounds, severe emotional dysregulation. Paranoid delusions. Inability to manage personal affairs. They'd weaponized my mind. I didn't flinch. I read every line, every clause. 37 pages of narrative crafted to bury me alive under the weight of concern. I printed 2 copies, one for annotation, one for evidence. My red pen cut through each lie like a scalpel. Raylan sat across my motel desk, laptop glowing in the dim light. 5 days, she said. That's how long before the hearing. 5 days, I repeated. Plenty of time to dismantle a house of cards. We began to build the counterfile, the recordings, the bank transactions, timestamps from my flight incident, and the forged medical certification. Logic was our armor. "What would you do," I asked quietly, "if your family tried to take over your life with the stroke of a pen?" Raylan didn't answer. She didn't have to. By afternoon, I was back at the Wynn estate. This time, no disguises. I walked straight up the path and asked for Bernice. The garden smelled of citrus and bleach. Bernice stood by the fountain, gloves on, eyes darting toward the windows. I handed her a single sheet from the petition. "You're listed as a witness." Her breath caught. I didn't agree to that." "Then tell me what really happened." She looked around before whispering, "Celeste stole prescription meds. Painkillers. Said they were for you. Then she told me to say I saw you take them." The truth sat between us, heavy as lead. I kept quiet, Bernice continued. "Until now. But I can testify." Just, don't let my name get dragged through TV or papers. I'll protect you, I said. She reached into her apron pocket and handed me a small silver recorder. I kept this. Jasper threatened me when I refused to refill the pills. Said he'd have me fired. Her eyes met mine. It's all on there. I squeezed her hand. You just saved my case. That night, Raylan dug into the heart of the machine, Yvette Sloan, the psychiatrist who'd labeled me unfit. She's their expert witness, Raylan said, scrolling through records. But something's off. Her fingers stopped. Found it. Medical license revoked. 2 years ago. For what? Manipulating patient evaluations. Paid falsifications. I stared at the screen, the photo of Yvette smiling in a courtroom, her white coat pristine, her license history shredded beneath. Raylan leaned closer. She's been flagged in 3 states. She's not legally allowed to testify. I almost laughed. It's never just the lie, it's the people paid to believe it. We filed an emergency motion to disqualify her testimony. For the first time in weeks, I felt the tide shift. Monday morning, the courthouse smelled of old paper and recycled fear. Celeste arrived in pale blue, pearls, and calm perfection. Her lawyer, Franklin Monroe, greeted the judge by first name. Of course he did. I wore navy. No makeup. Hair tied back. My armor was restrained. Jasper testified first, smooth as a polished stone. My sister's episodes began after our father passed. She shows paranoia, fixates on non-existent plots, records conversations without context. Objection, Raylan cut in. Speculation, not medical observation. Sustained, the judge said mildly, barely looking up. Jasper faltered. Raylan flipped a page on her tablet. Mr. Wynn, isn't it true you withdrew over $8,000 from a joint account last month? He blinked. That was financial management. And isn't it also true those funds were redirected to your sister's alleged treatment center? A pause. Then silence. When it was my turn, I didn't shake. I spoke like a teacher reviewing facts. I documented every interaction, I said. Audio, date, time, location. Raylan played Bernice's recording. Jasper's voice filled the room. If she talks, she's out. Tell the story or lose your job. Celeste's jaw tightened, a microscopic crack in her perfect facade. During recess, we regrouped in the hallway. Raylan's phone buzzed. She read the message, her expression darkening. They disqualified one of our recordings. The court clerk says it's technically corrupted. But that's impossible, it played fine this morning. My stomach turned cold. They swapped it. Raylan exhaled. Someone inside's feeding them access. Mildred appeared near the benches, hat low, eyes steady. She'd come quietly, unnoticed by Celeste's team. Don't lose your nerve, she murmured as she passed. They only win if you believe the story they wrote for you. Her words anchored me. We didn't need every recording. We just needed one truth they couldn't delete. Outside, reporters had gathered. The courthouse steps gleamed under the noon sun. A young woman with a microphone stopped me. Ms. Wynn, rumor says your family's trying to protect you from another breakdown. Is that true? I stopped walking. The phrasing was rehearsed. Someone had fed her that line. I looked straight into the camera. My family isn't protecting me, I said. They're protecting their lies. Her face froze. The mic lowered slightly. Inside, Celeste was probably watching that broadcast already. They wanted me silent. So now, I'd make every word count. Raylan shut the door behind her and laid the last folder on the motel desk. This isn't just court, she said. This is identity warfare. I nodded, sliding the evidence closer. 3 exhibits, a printed email thread, Jasper's cleaned-up ledger, marked and corrected in red, and a USB holding the kitchen cam footage. Every pause counts now, I said aloud, rehearsing. Every word. I stood in front of the mirror, mock courtroom behind my eyes. I practiced the same phrase a dozen ways. Adjusted breath. Adjusted silence. Adjusted posture. Down the courthouse hallway, Jasper was pacing. I saw him through the glass, one hand in his pocket, the other clutching a folded paper like it was a lifeline. Celeste entered next. White suit. Pearls. A portrait of manufactured grace. Raylan whispered, if they collapse, they'll try to take you with them. I breathed in. Then we make the fall loud enough to echo. Have you ever had to prove your sanity to the very people who swore they loved you? I have. Yvette Sloan took the stand first. She spoke with calm confidence until Raylan objected on grounds of revoked licensure. The judge allowed her to speak but stripped her words of legal weight. You may offer personal opinion, not medical diagnosis. Raylan countered with Celeste's email, showing Sloan was on retainer weeks before I was even notified of concern. Then came the money trail. Raylan displayed the projected screen, wire transfers from Jasper to a hidden trust in Celeste's name, amounts matching my missing funds. I watched the judge's eyebrows lift, just a fraction. Then, the blow, a handwriting expert testified. The signature on the treatment consent form wasn't mine. It was an imitation. Confident, but wrong. Raylan turned toward Jasper. If your concern was mental health, why drain her finances first? He tried to speak. Then cleared his throat. Then stammered. It wasn't about money. But you did empty the account? Yes. No further questions. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly as Bernice's footage played. The first scene, Jasper leaning close to her, voice clipped. Just say she's been erratic. Or you'll be replaced. Gasps rippled. Bernice sat silently in the gallery, her presence a quiet anchor. The footage shifted, Celeste, in the mailroom opening a letter addressed to me, then dropping it into the trash without reading. My voice cracked just once. She didn't want a sister. She wanted silence. The judge's gavel called for a recess. He looked pale. Jasper tried to catch my eye as we passed in the aisle. I didn't look. Celeste took the stand composed, her tone like a bomb. She recited phrases, we were concerned. She changed. She was isolating. Raylan kept her questions steady, layering inconsistencies one by one. On March 12th, you claimed she refused contact. Yet these texts from your phone show 5 unanswered calls from her. Celeste's voice trembled. That was a mistake. And this deleted email chain? You called her a threat to reputation. I didn't mean. Raylan paused. Would you like to explain what you did mean? Celeste snapped. She is not family. She's a liability. The courtroom went still. The judge looked up sharply. Jasper stood. Your Honor, please, don't punish Celeste. She was just trying to manage chaos. His words weren't a defense. They were a confession. Raylan closed. This isn't about madness. It's about method. A method of erasure, carefully written into contracts, whispered through corridors, signed in ink that hoped to go unexamined. Then it was my turn. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I read from my notes, clear and measured. I have never been unstable. I have been inconvenient. There's a difference. The judge took it in, quiet and unreadable. Verdict in 48 hours. The crowd outside had thinned. A young woman passed me a folded paper and vanished. It was from Mildred. One line, handwritten. They were never the real enemy. The real one is still watching. My fingers closed around the note. I looked toward the sky, not in fear, but readiness. The verdict arrived like a gentle gale, barely noticed until it had charged the air. 2 days after the final hearing, the clerk placed a simple white envelope on my desk. I opened it slowly, reading the lines in muted astonishment: full denial of the conservatorship petition, nullification of all financial claims under Celeste's name, and a 10-year bar on any asset controlled by Jasper or her. You've proven not just your competence, but your composure, the judge's words echoed in my mind. I felt relief, yes, but it was stripped of celebration. I walked outside the courthouse into sunlight that felt colder than the courtroom air. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed. I stepped past them with dignity, not triumph. Would you celebrate your freedom when it came from the people who tried to destroy you? I asked myself that as I walked away, quiet and resolved. The aftermath was a sea of partial victories and lingering shadows. Raylan called in the morning. Celeste's practice is under review. Jasper resigned. County is voiding a case file they mishandled. I folded the official apology letter from the county into two and ripped it in half. It was an admission, yes. But not the closure I dreamed of. I drove to Bernice's modest home. She was packing a small suitcase. You did what most of us only dream of, she said quietly. You didn't let them write your story. Her words felt tender, bittersweet. Justice had been served, but peace, true peace, was only beginning. 3 months later, I stood before a small group in the community center by Biscayne Bay. My students, adults who had given up speaking, lost jobs, lost hope. I greeted them, voice steady. A student asked, "Why teach after everything that happened?" I paused, watching the sunlight catch the ripples on the bay. Because silence can heal, but words can rebuild, I said. I began moving through the room with calm authority, showing them how grammar and courage go hand in hand. My rhythm slowed, steadied, no rush. Here was purpose. Here was freedom in action. Then the letter came. An envelope from a nursing home. Inside, my mother's handwriting. Marin Wynn. I opened it at my desk after class. Her words revealed she had tried to expose Celeste's manipulations but was coerced into silence by Thomas months before she died. Forgive me for calling you fragile. You were the only one of us who wasn't. Tears fell for the first time, not in sorrow, but in release. I folded the letter and placed it inside the front pocket of my notebook. A reminder, not a wound. One evening, just as I dismissed class, the classroom door opened. Elliot Grange walked in, his flight attendant uniform replaced by a casual polo. He grinned. You look a lot more alive than the woman who boarded my plane, he said. He handed me a notebook, his log of passengers he'd helped escape abuse of control. I opened it and found a section titled Survivors Who Spoke, and beneath it, my name. Warmth spread through me. Here was hope, not bitterness. Here was connection. The day ended with waves lapping at the shore outside. A teenage girl stepped forward, Mildred's daughter, her eyes on mine. "Were you ever scared?" she asked. I looked at the horizon, tinted by the sunset, and answered softly, "Every day." But fear didn't win. I turned off the lights in the classroom, leaving only the hum of the air conditioner and the distant ocean. And I thought, freedom isn't the absence of pain. It's the moment you stop needing permission to breathe.